Hello students, welcome you all for the course of MBA Semester 3 Advertising Management. Today is our lecture number 29 and the topic of our today's discussion is advertising budget allocation. So, the objective of our today's session is help to understand the concept of advertising budget allocation and other influencing factors that will be helpful in deciding the advertising budget. So the contents of our today's session are advertising budget allocation and influencing factors for setting the advertising budget. Advertising budget allocation. Now when we are conducting any of the advertising activity, we need to plan out our action, okay, so that we should have a effective advertising campaigning, and for which we do require an advertising budget. So as discussed earlier, advertising budget is nothing but a planned expenses and revenues for placing the advertisement into the medium appropriately. So here we should have to prepare one important document with the help of effective media planning and scheduling of activity, so that we can manage the expenses, particularly for preparing the to place the advertisement into the medium and analyzing the total advertising expenditure that has been required by means of using the advertising budget. So this advertising budget will provide the forecast of revenue and expenditure for cost effective advertising. So many of the companies, those who are going for advertising, so they are primarily preparing one of the essential document, so that they can analyze the expenditure as well as revenue, okay, that will provide by means of using some sort of forecasting. The allocation of advertising budget will enable the actual financial operation of the business to be measured against the forecast. So it is quite difficult many of the times, okay, to prepare that particular form of budget to meet the advertisement expenditure, and that's why, okay, that advertising budget should be prepared in advance. So it would not be a form of planning wherever we can conduct this advertising activity haphazardly. So we do require some sufficient form of planning, by means of that we can prepare the advertising budget, okay. Particularly this will be also helpful to the businesses, okay, particularly in longer run, okay. By means of that we can measure the effective advertising strategy and analyze our target audience very effectively. So there are various allocation factors. On the basis of that, the company will decide, okay, how to allocate that whatever form of advertising budget that could be available to them by using the varieties of methods. So here the primarily the companies will think about, okay, what will be the marketing mix in many of the situations, okay, that product price place promotion activities that they need to be planned in such a way, okay, by means of considering the overall advertisement budget, or considering the total marketing budget that should be considered in the overall marketing budget. So in this case, the companies would think about, okay, what form of promotional activity, mainly the promotional activity that should be considered under the advertising. The rest three product price space, okay, activity that should be considered in the overall marketing budget. So that depends on the company what kind of advertising budget that they are formulating to meet the appropriate objectives. The second factor that should be very effective, particularly in allocating the advertising budget, okay, because all companies are having some limited resources. So here in this case the companies are being focusing on the sales forecast. So what will be the projected sales forecast? Depending on that, okay, they were they are correlating the amount needed to achieve the sales forecast. Okay, so what depending on the anticipated or future sales forecast, the companies think about whatever form of advertising expenditure, okay, they are going to incur on them. Okay, and then they will prepare their advertising budgets. Okay, so this form of preparation, uh, particularly for the advertising budget, that should be on the basis of that sales forecast. This will be helpful to the company. Okay, particularly by means of analyzing the unit cost of that particular advertisement. Okay, I even companies, those who are being primarily doing large scale advertising, okay, that should be benefited very largely. So particularly how to analyze this sales forecast, okay, that is depend on the company and what form of operations that they are being conducting primarily. So in most of the cases, here we are thinking about the unit, okay, sales in unit. So how many units are being sold out, okay, rather than the rupee volume. Okay, rather than considering the total sales volume in terms of rupees, so they are considering here, okay, how many units has been sold out. Okay, so depending on that they are preparing the sales forecast. Okay, so this form of forecast has been primarily used whenever possible in order to more specific in allocating the budget to various items. Okay, if the companies those are having big product lines, so in that case per unit sales forecast could be feasible, particularly for the company to prepare their advertising budgets also. Sometimes companies are being focusing on sales by the customer classes. Now it depends on what type of customers they are being primarily watching the advertisements, okay, across the various media segment. Okay, now in this case, okay, the sales forecast has been identified depending on the targeted group of customers. So, okay, to the data for ascertaining the advertising cost in reaching the various customers group. So here primarily the company's advertising budget would be set to come closer and closer to the customer, particularly the targeted group of customers. As well as many of the companies, they are also using the sales forecast by means of using their product lines. Okay, total product line forecast. Okay, if the companies are producing the soaps, okay, and they are pioneer in that particular product line, so they will analyze the total sold sales volume of the soap, or whatever they are being producing, and which has been consumed by the targeted group of customers, rather than considering the individual soaps brands. So in order to determine how much advertising will be needed to achieve the sales volume of the soap, okay, that they will think about that. Okay, so here considering all the product means of that particular soap segment, so depending on that they will generate the total sales volume. So how much amount of soap has been sold out in the last year or in the forthcoming year, depending on that they are setting their the sales forecast, and then they are preparing the advertising budget. Even companies are also focusing on preparing the advertising budget by means of considering the, okay, the sales in different territories, okay, or regions. So this will be helpful in deciding what form of advertising expenditure should be made in each area. Okay, depending on that they will allocate that advertising budget for that individual area, and promote that particular brand in that region. So in this way, depending on the sales forecast, the companies are focusing on preparing the advertisement budget accordingly, and they allocate that advertising budget either by using the individual units or customer classes, or using some different product lines, okay, or using some sort of territories. Now the affordability, okay, these whatever form of advertising budget the company will set, okay, whether that budget would be affordable to the company, okay, so that they can allocate the fund, okay, to meet the different requirements of the different departments. So primarily the two important questions will be generated: how much funds are available to the company. Now it depends on what form of strategy that they are using to allocate the fund. Okay, or which can be, or how much can be affordable to the company, so that they can distribute that fund among the several departments to achieve the different advertisement objective. So while we are talking about the affordability level, okay, that depends on how the advertiser prioritize the selling, or how much to spend is fixed by the advertiser in order to avoid the overspending. Now here the finally is company's management decision over here, how much they are going to spend on the advertising. Okay, so the allocation would also depends on, okay, whether it is feasible for the company to allocate that much amount of fund for advertising purposes. So here the companies are thinking in this way, and they will allocate only that much amount of fund, okay, for that particular promotional purpose, or setting the advertising budget. Then product life cycle. Okay, now when we are talking about this product life cycle, okay, the product has been passing through the different stages of its life. So once we are allocating the different funds, particularly for setting the advertising budget, okay, to meet the required expenses, and finally we can calculate the advertisement expenditure. So considering the different stages of product life cycle, okay, we need to allocate the advertisement budget according, so that we can expect that much amount of sales, okay, in that particular time. So when the product has been introduced, okay, we quite familiar that high level of advertising has been required. Even more advertising has been required whenever the product is in the introduction stage of its product life cycle. Okay, even in case of growth stages, okay, we would likely to make an awareness among the targeted group of customer. So here we need to generate some different sort of sentiments by means of introducing the product trials, okay, that will further increase the sales of the company. So during growth stage also some sort of advertising has been necessary to generate the awareness among the targeted group of customers, particularly when the product reaches to the maturity stage. Okay, so here there is a threat that the different competitors will take the undue advantage. That's why companies will be further focusing on the advertising activity, and they are going for more advertising expenditure, okay, to reduce the dropping of sales, okay, and to fight with the competition. So in different stages of product life cycle, the companies are managing their advertising budget very effectively. Even in case of the declining stage, the budget can be reduced to the level whatever amount it will be needed to retain the loyal customers only. So the company, they could not stop their advertising activity throughout. Okay, it will still continue, okay, particularly for the loyal customers even in the declining stage, but it will be lower down specifically in the declining stages. Now when we are talking about this product life cycle and how to manage the advertising budget, okay, that finally depends on the company's resources and how much budget that they are allocating. Here they are using the historical methods, that how much expenses that they were drawn particularly for last advertising budget, and depending on that they will decide that how much budget was allocated last year, and what will be their strategy this year. Okay, in this way that is called as brand history method. Okay, so they will apply that brand history method, and assessing the performance of the product, and advertising that whatever has been done in the last year. Okay, so either they will consider the same advertising expenditure, or they may increase or decrease depending on the industry average. Okay, so that finally depends on the company's management decision. So in this way, whenever the product passes through the different life cycles, so our advertising budget can be managed very effectively. Okay, and in this way the allocation of funds particularly for advertising budget would be done. Then quality of the campaign. Now it depends on the, again, the company, that what form of creatives that they are being going to include in the overall advertisement campaign. So many of the companies, that those who are using the very high quality, or by means of using effective product positioning, using the unique selling proposition, so they are approaching to the some bigger advertising agencies. Those are being very recognizable agencies, and finally they are formulating their advertisement campaigns okay, complete building the advertisement campaign and its execution of the advertisement campaign that these companies are being handling, okay, and due to which what happened, their total advertising budget could increase. So it also depends on the quality of the campaign that they are going to deliver to the particular targeted group of customers, okay. But if the companies are being looking for more visibility of the ad campaign to the targeted group of customers, so the company would also think about that campaign must be striking and creative, okay. Company even think and they believe that there must be a very good campaign, and then only it should be noticed by the targeted group of customer. If the company wants to introduce some more form of creativity in their advertisement campaign, that naturally increases their quality of the campaign, and definitely the advertising budget would increase. So in this way, if the company, suppose they are thinking to have a good quality of advertising, okay, and they are looking for more and more number of customers, naturally they need to increase their advertising budget, okay, from the threshold level whatever that they are looking for. Next is what called as the level of competition. Now, majority of the manufacturers, even the companies, okay, they are using some counter fighting strategies to meet the advertising budget of the competitors. So here the competitor strategy would be very popular, okay. Many of the advertisers, they are increasing or decreasing the advertising budget depending on the competitors by using the industry average also. So higher advertising budget would be required, okay, to counter with the competitors, okay, and they continuously focusing their advertising, okay, as par at par with the competitors, and try to manage their advertising campaign, and try to lure the customers as well, okay, across the various media segments. So in that case also the advertising budget would increase, okay. Product categories, okay, which have very steep competition witness a greater expenditure on advertising, okay. Whenever there are some particular type of consumable products specifically, okay, here lots of advertising expenditures are being required. So products which are facing some sort of steep competition, okay, greater advertising expenditure are required, and companies those are being the manufacturer of this packaged goods specifically, they need to spend heavily on the advertisement, okay, and then also think about the what will be the competitor strategy. So level of competition would be considered while preparing the advertisement budget, and naturally depending on the kind of competition among the product advertising, okay, we need to allocate this budget. Then budgeting cycle, okay. We are planning to have a very good effective advertising, so many of the manufacturers, okay, or the companies, okay, they would have advertising budget appropriation, okay. So that budget appropriation would be nothing but how much time that budget would be effective particularly, okay, either for 6 months or for a year, okay. When we are talking about one financial year, it doesn't mean that it depends on the company that the company would have appropriate resources for preparing the budget also. If the company do not have some sufficient amount of fund, okay, they can have their budget appropriation up to 6 months, okay. If they are having sufficient amount of fund, so they can have a 1 year complete activity for budget preparation, okay. So advertising budget can be prepared for 1 year also. So it depends lastly on the company resources. So overall advertising budget appropriation, that finally depends on, okay, how much amount of time period, okay, that you consider for that advertising budget. That advertising budget would be either of, suppose say, 6 months, or it should be also maybe also 1 year, okay, advertising budget. So finally it depends on the company's resources. Usually companies have yearly budget, but some many prepare long term budget that match the long term objectives, okay. So when we are talking about this budgeting cycle, okay, finally it is quite necessary to meet all the financial requirement of the company. Even also some companies those are having higher resources, they are focusing 1 year a complete advertising budget activity, okay, particularly to meet the long term advertising objectives, okay. But companies those are having some limited resources, they can have their budget advertising budget appropriation maybe up to what 6 months. So finally it depends on what would be the budgeting cycle that the companies are being using. Contingency planning, okay. When we are conducting a business, okay, there will be different factors that are being affecting to our businesses, okay. These factors are called as uncontrollable factors, okay. So many external factors need to be managed very effectively, particularly to meet the contingencies, and for which we need to plan our advertising budget to meet these contingencies and manage the media very effectively and keep in touch with the customer, uh, whatever that we are being targeting, okay. So contingency planning has been very essential, okay. So some sufficient amount of working capital or sufficient amount of fund has been very much necessary to meet these contingencies. So advertising will keep aside some contingency fund, and which will be used to tackle the unexpected market challenges, okay. So particularly during the festivals, okay, we do find out that heavy advertising across the media, okay, particularly in this region the advertising rates are almost double, okay. And to meet these contingencies, okay, the many of the companies are being planning in this way to meet the unexpected expenses by means of heavy advertising. So many of the companies they are planning in this way and preparing their advertising budget very heavily, particularly during the seasons mostly. Now the last one is called as type of product, okay. Our budget allocation would also depends on the type of products and which have been primarily targeted to the appropriate group of customers. So when we are talking about the budget appropriation, that we were seeing, budget appropriation would be either 6 months or 1 year, okay. Or some of them are having the long term strategy that depends on finally companies thinking and ideology also. So generally what happens, there are different class of products, okay, or say for example consumer products mostly, or packaged products. So products which are strong in demand, okay, or strong in consumer demand, those are always in demand. Here we will look for pull strategy over here. So here we need to heavily uh, conduct the advertising activity and try to inform to the targeted group of customer wherever the customer will be feel delighted and aware, okay. By means of that, okay, we can lure the customers very well. So particularly this pull strategy has been used to provide the information and for promotional activity, okay, so that so that we can promote the product to stand in the market. Now another type of product is called as wherever we do require some middlemen and retailers through which the product has been sold out, okay. So product categories wherever middlemen has been used or retailers has been used, here we need to promote the product by means of using the push strategy. So here the manufacturer, okay, the manufacturer whatever they will manufacture, they will make the product available through these middlemen and retailer by giving them some heavy margins and try to promote the product using the push strategy into the market. Now whenever we are using these both the strategy, pull strategy and push strategy, okay, here heavy advertising has been required, particularly using the pull strategy. Here we are more and more spending on the dealers commission, okay, rather than advertising. So we do need to think about, okay, depending on the type of product, okay, how much would be the advertising that we need to conduct it, and finally we need to decide our advertising budget, okay. Products which require some high margin on selling prices over the product cost, advertising will continue the part of entire marketing budget, okay. Once we are talking about this form of advertising, okay, or the advertising which can be conducted, okay, or whenever the companies are offering some heavy commissions to the dealers and distributors, or we generally called as middlemen or retailers. Okay, so that would be considered as a part of marketing budget, okay, rather than considering the advertising budget. So high margin of selling prices over the product cost advertising will constitute the part of entire marketing budget, okay, rather than considering the part of advertising budget. Okay, now when we are talking about any kind of standardized industrial product, okay, we were seeing about that consumer products, okay, those are strong in demand, okay, or another form of product which can be sold out to the retailers. Okay, and third one is called as industrial product. For any industrial product there is no heavy means of advertising has been conducted, okay, or some other media need to be identified. The advertising may play a negligible and advisable to use other promotional means as directed by the sales force. So here whatever our sales force are being working, okay, and depending on their suggestions how to advertise it effectively, generally we can advertise in the trade journals, okay, or even in some particular magazine, business to business magazine, wherever we will get large number of business customers, okay, and we can sold out that industrial product to them. So in this way, in case of our standardized industrial product, we need to manage our advertisement expenditure very appropriately. Now considering this product strategy, okay, we need to formulate our advertisement budget and finally think over that how to allocate that budget very appropriately. Finally again depends on, it is depend on the overall company's resources and strategies that they are being adopting to prepare and allocate the advertising budget. The next one is called as influencing factors. Okay, now when we are talking about the advertising uh, budget preparation, okay, and its allocation, finally what form of factors need to be considered while preparing the advertising budget. Okay, we were recently seen that some of the very important factors that will be useful in the allocation of the advertising budget. Okay, that allocation of the advertising budget would also depend on some other influencing factors due to which your budget may vary. Okay, or here the companies would think that, okay, whether they will curtail the advertising expenditure or manage the advertising media very effectively. Now let us see one by one. Here we need to think about the target market, okay, which has been made available to that particular product, and what consumer base has been available. If the companies are being focusing on youth customer, children customer, adult, okay, or female customers, so we do need to think over what form of targeted group of customers the product has been exposed to them. Simultaneously we need to think about the advertising frequency, okay, how much total advertising has been required, and total or we need to identify the clutters, okay, so that we can place the advertisement into the medium and fill up the empty space, time and space into the media, so that customer could be get aware about the product. Even we need to conduct that media scheduling activity very appropriately. Okay, throughout the year we need to manage the media and place the advertisement into these different medium. Okay, by means of that the advertising budget could increase, but we need to manage this media very effectively, so that we can keep in touch with the customer. Then different budgeting methods. Now we were already seen about the different budgeting methods. Okay, different budgeting methods here primarily meet the requirements of the advertiser, but finally it depends on the company's top management decision that whether it should be affordable to them or not. Okay, so either they will use percentage of sales method or competitive parity method or objective method over here to meet the appropriate requirement of that advertising budget. So what form of budgeting method will be appropriately used, finally it is the choice of the management. Time, space and duration. Okay, so whatever media vehicles that you are selecting, particularly place the advertisement into the medium, we need to think about, okay, what time that you are going to place your advertisement into the medium, even the space. Okay, you need to occupy the space, and how long the campaign would be run in that particular media. So duration of that particular advertisement campaign would be considered. Okay, that may increase the advertisement expenditure. So time, space and duration may be also an important factor while preparing the advertising budget, so that may also influence your advertising budget also. type of media and other advertising channels. Okay, we will already discuss about the different types of media. Okay, and several advertising channels are being available. Okay, so here we need to focus on what form of cost effective media would be there, or cost effective advertising channel would be there, so that we can manage our advertising budget very effectively. Okay, that can be also one of the very influencing factor that may sometimes increase the advertising cost also. But we do need to think about the kind of revenue which can be generated by means of using this type of appropriate selection of the media and advertising channels. Okay, that may gives rise to the a larger number of customer where the product can be get exposed to them. Then the advertising objective, depending on the advertising objective, maybe that advertising objective can be defined either on the basis of your overall marketing communication or message strategy, where you would likely to generate the form of sentiments, okay, in the form of awareness, okay, likes or dislike or something else, some emotions that you want to generate among the public, okay, or targeted group of customers. Okay, so here you need to set out your advertising objective. Depending on that also your advertising budget can be get formulated. Even the advertising budget can be formulated on the basis of the competitor strategy. Here what the competitors may think fit, depending on that. Okay, considering the industry average that we were already discussed earlier in the previous session. Okay, and we need to consider either there may be an increase or decrease in the competitor strategy. Okay, or advertising budget. Okay, that may things fit to the company, and they finally allocate that much amount of budget for advertising purposes. Company could also decide about the overall market share of that particular product in that particular segment, and what will be the profit margin that has been generated, okay, in that particular segment or product segment. So here suppose that we are thinking about suppose say deodorant. Okay, so in deodorant of how much the market share would be occupied. Okay, that the company need to think that. Okay, if the companies are doing well in that particular segment, okay, they want to increase the advertising budget to maintain the same market share further. Okay, and that may definitely increase the profit margin of the company. Even the advertising budget also depends on the corporate objectives. Many of the companies, those are having a very long term objectives, okay, particularly to extend their advertising activity as a form of routine activity. Okay, and they not only consider that advertising activity as a form of promotional activity. Okay, they will consider here to enhance the image and goodwill of the company. Okay, so it is quite necessary to sustain with the good and effective advertising strategies. Okay, they are you conducting also group advertising or institutional advertising. Okay, that may increase the cost of advertising, and simultaneously you do require some heavy advertising budget in the longer run specifically. So that these are the factors that may influence your advertising budget. Okay, and due to which sometimes your advertising budget will increase. Okay, because you are considering over here that there are plenty of things that can be there. Okay, by means of that the advertising expenditure can be increased, but it doesn't mean that your as your advertising expenditure will increase, but you need to manage that media very effectively by means of effectively allocating that much amount of fund. Okay, and whatever your objective, whether that objectives had been meet out appropriately or not. So that is all about our advertising budget. So that's all about our today's session. Thank you very much.